जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to all the devotees who are listening today. We'll first start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितां तां सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्री राधाकृष्ण पादान् सगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य वेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Once again, today we are coming to the 24th chapter of the 9th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramala Purana. And we are right at the verge of entering the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna. That is Canto 10. So today I will be covering up to verse 31 to Vasudev's appearance, who is the father of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Next week, next Saturday, hopefully we'll be completing Canto 24. And from Sunday onwards, we'll be entering into next Sunday onwards, we'll be entering into the blissful pastimes of Vrindavan Leela. So to all the 8 devotees who have assembled here today, my humble obeisances to you. My humble obeisances to Lilananda Prabhu and all the senior Vaishnavas, who have made this forum possible. Whatever I speak today is the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. And I know I'm not fully qualified to take this class, but Mataji reached out to me and asked me to please take this class. And I was in the roster. Of course, I'm not following the RTI platform, but Mataji is very kindful. And she sends me the WhatsApp message. I think it's a blessing in a way. Thank you so much. And once again, please bear with me for the next 70 minutes, where I'll try to make this particular chapter as meaningful as it can be. I did a small study, and that was for my own benefit. I always believe that whenever we get an opportunity to speak on Bhagavata Katha, it's a unique opportunity for the speaker to also purify himself or herself. Not only the listeners, but the speakers also. And usually these kind of chapters, I don't know how many of you have actually taken a look at the flow of this chapter. An immediate look of this chapter, it might seem to be a very, very dry chapter, chapter 24. It only has genealogy in it. Essentially, so-and-so person was born, so-and-so person was the father, this was the dynasty, and it keeps moving in that way till Krishna is born. And for me, it was also very important to try and understand what is the significance of this particular narrative. I was also trying to understand why Srila Vyasadeva has written this chapter in this way, and why Shukadeva Goswami narrated it also in such a way wherein actually thousands of years of genealogy have been compressed in 31 shlokas. Not one verse, verses, thousands of years of genealogy. There's kind of so many, ancestors have all been compressed in 31 shlokas by Shukadeva Goswami. That is the significance of this particular chapter. So Srila Prabhupada used to say that, and so, by the way, I won't be using the Veda base today to read the shlokas, because I think it might become a little bit dry for all the listeners also. I will speak. I will quote a few things, and I will request, it's my humble request to all of you, that after this class, please read these 31 shlokas and reflect upon it, because we are entering into the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna from Canto 10 onwards. So Prabhupada used to tell us in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam that one will not be able to come to the effects of the 10th canto, that is capture the 10th canto in its full essence, without going first through all the 9 cantos that are there. And today we are standing at that particular threshold. So we are finishing the 9th canto, just actually the purification cycle. And from the next class onwards, hopefully from next Sunday onwards, we'll enter into the Canto 10, which is the Vrindavan Leela, the beautiful pastimes of the Lord. He'll be playing with the Gopas, the Gopis. He'll be killing demons as a young child. He'll lift the Govardhana hill, and we'll all be immersed in supreme bliss. But before we hear those pastimes, the Bhagavatam is asking us actually, are your hearts ready to enter into that 10th canto? And that is what this 24th chapter is about. So, in the first verse of the 10th canto, Prabhupada writes in his purport that Maharaj Parikshit gave more respect to the dynasty of the moon god, the Somavamsha, because of the Yadava dynasty descending from the moon. So I'll touch upon this a bit later, upon why actually, Maharaj Parikshit is giving more emphasis on the moon dynasty. So this is the essential teaching that is there for us today. And we need to keep in mind that it is not that, moon and sun are getting honored because of different astronomical placements. It is because actually the Yadu dynasty is being honored because Krishna appeared within it. And that is why we are giving also more prominence to the moon dynasty. That is the important point that we need to keep in mind. Okay. So everything we read today in these verses, right? We are going to be covering all the names. I'll be actually just taking you through that flow in terms of all the different names that are captured in these verses. They are the setup to the Yadu Kula Charita. So basically, they are leading to that. The dynasty that prepared the womb, the house for Krishna to appear. That is Devaki Mata's womb. So how did that come? How did it come to Devaki Mata, and how did Krishna come into Devaki Mata? So before that, I want to refer to 7.19 in Bhagavad Gita. Does anyone remember 7.19 in Bhagavad Gita?
No problem.
Nam janmanamante jnanavanyam prapadyate vasudevam sarvayuti sa mahatma sadurlubha. So that is after many births and deaths. It's very rare somebody acquires that wisdom by the mercy of Krishna, and he realizes that Krishna Vasudeva is the source of all sources. But that is a very rare occurrence, right? And Prabhujis and Matajis, all of us are jivas, jivatmas. We are not this body, and I'm sure all of you who are attending this class are able to understand that and are able to appreciate that we are not this soul. At least you have the knowledge. That is why you are here listening to Bhagavad Gita. But we keep forgetting that. And that is what has happened. So, as I mentioned to you, that before the class started, that, this class is about genealogy. Does everybody understand genealogy? Genealogy means ancestors. Where am I coming from? And like, for example, we all have a Gotra, correct? Now, you also know your Gotra, Prabhuji. What is your Gotra, if I may ask you, Suresh Prabhuji? Thank you so much for keeping the video on your Gotra, Prabhu. What is your Gotra?
Guntakula.
Guntakula Gotra, Prabhu. So, finally, Prabhu, we all have one Gotra. So, in fact, I was also, when was reading this in the morning, I was just reflecting upon my Gotra. So, my Gotra is Harida Gotra. So, and as a child, when I had my Upanayanam ceremony and all that, we were taught to do something called Abhivadaya. Abhivadaya is basically whenever we meet somebody and we offer namaskaram to other people who are elderly, we introduce ourselves by that Abhivadaya. Abhivadaya, we say that I am from so-and-so Gotra. These are my three key ancestors. So in Harida Gotra, the three key ancestors are, we say Angarisha, Yavanashva, Ambarisha. Now, who is Angarisa? Angarisa Muni is the person sage who taught Harita. Harita was actually not a Muni, he was actually a Kshatriya. So, and his ancestors were Yavanashva, whose father was actually Ambarish Maharaj. And when I realized that, I was a bit stunned. I said, my God, all these days I've heard about this, that when I do Abhivadaya, I need to say these things, but I don't know my lineage. My lineage actually goes back to one of the 12 Mahajans, Ambarish Maharaj. And I was stunned. I was said, my God, that is such an important responsibility we are all carrying. Similarly, all of us, and some of us might not know our Gotras, we all go back to Kashyapa Muni. That's what they say. Wherever there is no Gotra, we give it the Kashyapa Gotra, because Kashyapa Muni was one of the 7 Saptarishis, and he started all the progenitions. So our lineage is all going back to something very, very auspicious and transcendental. But somewhere along the way, we have forgotten our lineage. We have forgotten who we are. Right? So if I just look back at ourselves, our Hindu culture is so rich. It's so rich that we can actually trace ourselves. I was doing a mathematical calculation because Ambarisha Maharaj, he appeared sometime in the Treta Yuga. Okay, in the cusp of the Satyuga, Treta Yuga, whatever. So you're going back almost close to 1 million years. That much time is our history that we know, at least for sure, what is our lineage. So Prabhuji and Matajis, please feel very, very proud that you all are part of a culture, a part of a society that does not go back 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, but goes back millions of years. That is the strength of our culture. So now what happened, and I think this is what we will read when we go through a little bit of this last chapter of 9th canto. we will read the different how all the lineage came leading up to Krishna. But before that, I want to just mention one thing. What we will read in this in chapter 9 is also about how Krishna prepares the place, or you might call a vessel or a house, to enter. And we as Jivatmas have been given a very, very unique opportunity to make that happen in this lifetime. Our hearts are also a home. Our mind is also our home. But our free will and our choice is also our own. We have a choice to exercise our free will to decide whether we want to allow Krishna into our hearts or we don't want to allow Krishna into our hearts. We have that choice. That is up to us. We can decide. And how do we do that? We need to follow the footsteps of Ambarish Maharaj. We need to follow the footsteps of great Vaishnavas, the Acharyas. They have given us the method also, the process also. So, our relationship, our sambandha with God, right? Rupa Goswami has prescribed that abhidheya in terms of how to reach God. And that ultimate prayojan that we are all aspiring for is Gopinath, who is the Lord of the Gopis. That is Lord Shri Krishna. So let's keep that in mind. And now let's start continuing. I know I've taken up a little bit of time on setting this context, but I thought it was important. Otherwise, this discussion will become a very, very dry discussion. So, as we move on, before I deep dive into this 24th chapter, let us also just take a quick recap of Canto 9. Because as I said, Canto 9 is a purificatory chapter. So if you look at Canto 9, it is actually split into two royal lines. So one is called a Surya Vamsha dynasty and the other is called the Chandra Vamsha dynasty. So chapters 1 to 13 of Canto 9, and this includes Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. We read about Amshuman searching for the Ganges. We read about Katwanga Maharaj, who attained the liberation and attained in one muhurta, that is 48 minutes. So we read a lot of great stories also. And they ultimately descended from the sun god. Who's the sun god? Vivaswan. Right? And then from chapter 14 to 24, we are reading about the Chandravamsha, that is the moon dynasty. And 24th chapter is the culmination of this particular discussion around the Chandravamsha. So this includes also stories around King Yayati. So King Yayati, anybody wants to just give a quick reference about the story of Yayati quickly? Anyone on the call who remembers the story of Yayati? So Yayati was a king who went behind sense gratification. So for 1000 years, he had sense gratification. And then finally he had a realization. And in one instant, he gave it up. Okay. And then there is the story of Ranti Deva. Anybody remembers the story of Ranti Deva? Okay. So Ranti Deva was also a very great devotee. And he gave away also his last drop of water, if you remember, to a Chandala. And he was being put through a test. But then he gave that, and that won the Lord's heart at the very peak. So we see that, all these great personalities have also appeared in the Chandravamsha. And of course, finally, in the Yadu dynasty, Sri Krishna appears. Right? Now I'll come back to the point that I was just discussing earlier about, why it's the Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty and why are we giving more emphasis? Why is Parikshit Maharaj giving more emphasis to the Moon dynasty? Prabhupada simply answers this. He says, in his purport, he says, because Krishna appeared in the Yadu dynasty, which descends from the moon god, that is why moon dynasty is given more importance, nothing else. That is the principle. So now, we might think also, in terms of why was the Yadu dynasty chosen also, right? So these are choices that have happened, right? Why is this? So there is a chapter in Canto 9. I'll go back to the story of King Maharaj Yayati. So now Yayati, he was cursed by his guru to lose his youth, and he was cursed to become an old man. Now, but however, the guru gave an escape clause to Yayati. What did he say? He said, you can trade your old age with the age of one of your 5 sons, right? And that son would volunteer to grow old in his place. So the first 4 sons, they refused. The youngest son who was there, he was Yadu. He stepped forward and he said, I will take the youth. I will give you my youth and I will take your old age. I will bear your curse. Now, after that, Yayati, of course, he enjoyed for 1000 years. But then finally, he realized one thing. In the Bhagavatam, in the 19th chapter, 14th verse, he says one very important point. And please make a note of this point. He says, desire is like a fire that is never extinguished by pouring fat or ghee or oil into it. So the more you feed it, the more it burns. I'm sure all of you have seen, Yagnakunda, they are doing homas, and the more fire ghee you put into that, the more it will burn. Desire, our desire, material desire that we have, and that is like that. The more we will feed it, the more it is going to burn. Why do we follow the 4 regulative principles? Right? One of the most primary reasons is to make our consciousness in the right space, make it come into the right space. Otherwise, it will keep deviating. Right? So if we are having a satsanga, we are getting into intoxication, we are doing wrong things like gambling and all those things. It will only feed those desires more. And I am no saint over here. I have also lived. I got into Krishna consciousness 6 years ago. Before that, I was more in the material world, even though I was born in a nice spiritual family and all that. We still get so Maya is so powerful. No, now, and coming back to this story, right? So after 1000 years, Yayati finally he understood, and he came back to Yadu and said, "My son, take back your youth. I give you my kingdom. I renounce everything." And Yadu was alone fit to rule because Yadu had sacrificed his own life for his father. Now that is the seed for the Yadu dynasty, Prabhujis and Matajis. It is not born out of ambition and not out of conquest, but from seva. That Yadu rendered to his father, it was selfless service. And somebody who was willing to give up, a young man was willing to give up his young age, his youth, to grow old so his father could enjoy. Right? And from that seed, Lord Krishna has come. From Yadu's line. So Krishna came into his Bambulila from a spirit of sacrifice. If you look at it, if you trace it all back upwards, it started with sacrifice, which Yadu did, and then Krishna came in that line. So we need to keep that in our hearts today, right? So genealogy is just not a name. When you're getting a gotra, you are not just a part of that gotra, just a name in that gotra. As a Jivatma, you have gotten the fortune to appear in a particular gotra because there is some responsibility that is given to you to carry out in this life to take you more closer to the lotus feet of the Lord. And if we squander that opportunity, we don't know how many more births and deaths we'll have to take, keep going into that cycle, round and round we'll be going. That's all. That is what will be happening. Right? So we have to prepare our heart. We have to prepare our heart through Vairagya, that is detachment, so that when we hear Krishna's pastimes, we do not fall into Maya. Because Maya is so powerful that it can just grab us and pull us. And that is why Prabhupada insists, read first the 9 cantos and then you come into the 10th canto. Now, when I'm telling this, for all of you who have listened to the 9th canto or remember some stories from the 9th canto, In the 9th canto, we also saw the story of Shaubari Muni. Anybody wants to share the story of Shaubari Muni? Hare Krishna. I know I'm talking, so I just want to make it a little bit more interactive. Anyone wants to share the story of Shaubari Muni? So,
I do not know.
no problem, Prabhuji. It's fine. It's fine. We all forget, even I forget. For
Hare
me, as I said, also this class was a division. Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Lilananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Dandot. Sorry, Prabhu, I came late a little.
No Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Shaubari Muni story is the aspect of him doing tapasya in Yamuna and cursing Garuda, and then later on getting fixed up,
Yeah.
to 50 wives, 50 children each. Same one,
Yes.
right?
Correct, Prabhu. 100%. So
Yeah.
he is meditating in the Yamuna and he sees two fish mating, copulating. And he immediately abandons his austerity to marry 50 princesses. So this is the one story we read. Apart from that, we also read the story of Sudimna losing his manhood, Yayati losing 1000 years. There's another very famous story of Pururava and Urvashi. Anybody remembers that story? Pururava and Urvashi story?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
Yeah. So Pururava, he is bewitched by an Apsara Urvashi and he abandons his kingdom also because of that. Now, why are all these stories? In fact, when you're reading these, you think that, am I reading Srimad Bhagavatam or am I reading some kind of, modern book, which has got all these tantalizing stories? But there is a reason for that also. Is to tell us the power of bhakti. Again, you are going to enter into the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna. Before we enter the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna, we need to get to some stage of purification. And similarly, in the 9th canto also, we read great stories of bhakti. So we are seeing great stories of bhakti, some heroes of bhakti, like as I said, Ambarish Maharaj, right? And we have, remember the famous verse, Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindaya. So his devotion to Krishna was so strong that even the great Durvasa Muni could not touch him. The Sudarshan Chakra itself came to protect him, right? And then we hear the story also in the same canto about Katvanga. So he only had one muhurta of life and he engaged his mind entirely on Krishna and then he attained that, right? So, and then there is a story of Rantidev also that we have. So, so many great stories are there, but also stories of caution to alert us that look here, before we are moving on a path which is fraught with danger. We are all in this material universe. Yesterday, I was talking to a colleague and I was telling him that as long as we choose to play in this sandbox, so all of you in the IT field will be familiar with an environment that we call sandbox. So this playground that we are playing in, we are making a choice to play in this playground, right? And the environment in this playground is not in our control. What we do is our control. So we have to be very, very careful because Maya is universal. It has trapped demigods, it has trapped yogis, it has trapped great kings. And the only shelter that we can take to stay away from Maya, because please remember that Maya is also Krishna's Shakti only. You cannot fight Maya. Mama Maya Duratya. You cannot fight Maya. You can only turn your head away from Maya and take the shelter of Krishna. So if we sincerely engage in bhakti to Krishna, then Maya will not touch us. Otherwise, Maya will grab us and take us away. So let us now continue that, and the other things also that we have read through the 9th canto, this is an important point, is that we saw people who had downfalls, right? I mentioned people who fell down. They were able to get up again also. That is very important, right? So even great people can fall, but even those who fall, they can redeem themselves through bhakti. I think that is very important. Right? So don't lose heart. Sometimes we often get into a situation that, array, what to do? Situation is like this. Let me continue doing what I'm doing. And Maya will only keep dragging you, dragging you, dragging you, dragging you away. And then it's only by the mercy of a Vaishnava or a Guru who comes into your life and shows some mercy, that spark inside you, who you are, who am I? I am the soul, right? What is my eternal constitution? When that spark gets awoken, right, we get one more chance to nurture that Bhaktilata beach and make it go towards Krishna. So please keep this frame. And that is one of the reasons why we are reading the genealogies today. Okay. So if you look at this verse, chapter 24, from verse 1 to 31, I've tried to cluster these verses actually so that it makes it a little bit more easier. And as I said, I won't read the verses, otherwise it will become a very, very dry discussion. The first cluster is the Vidarbha Krata branch that is described over here. So in the first two verses, Shukadeva Goswami will say, by the womb of the girl bought by his father, Vidarbha begot three sons, named Kusha, Krata, and Romapada. Now, who is Vidarbha? So Vidarbha is just a name. He had three sons. One of them is Krata, right? So Krata will become one of the
भागवत पुराण बता रहा है
branches.
भागवत
Hare Krishna, please mute yourselves.
ये आज लेक्चर चालू भागवतम
Hare Krishna.
हाँ
Prabhuji, you can mute, right? You're the
Yeah,
co-host. Or?
I'm muting, Prabhu. So, yes. So, as I said, so Krata was one of the great branches, right? So, the genealogy itself, the description starts very simply, but Vyasadeva mentions that Romapada became the favorite in the dynasty of Vidarbha. So, even here, what we see that not every son is equally glorified. So, if you read in this, whenever in Bhagavatam, many places they have this genealogy, they'll pick one person, right? So every person is not equally glorified. So, and if you, and for next verses, we'll also see the same dynasties where we have the same lineage where Vasudeva and Devaki have appeared. We have in the similar lineage also, we have somebody like a Kamsa who appears, right? Now, why is that happening? That is free will, Prabhujis and Matajis. We always have the choice. Our lineage does not guarantee our liberation. I think we need to keep that in mind. Our lineage is only giving us an opportunity to continue our spiritual progress with a set of given environment. Some people are more fortunate that they are in a particular lineage, that they are able to pursue their spirituality in a much more enhanced way. And some people are not so fortunate. But we have seen also those people who are not so fortunate take up, right? So my Guru Maharaj, he was born in a Jewish family in the US, but then finally he managed to travel all the way to India, and then he has moved ahead also, right? So you don't need to be born in a particular family to make spiritual progress. But again, being born in a spiritual family also does not guarantee progress, and that is what is coming here, where Romapada he is glorified more. And so from Krata who came from Krata? Kunti. And from Kunti comes Vrishnis. So here we encounter one of the key names, which is the Vrishni dynasty we are hearing. So here, as I said, thousands of years of genealogy is getting compressed in 31 verses. So when you read this particular section, it's like a bit of information overload, right? And so from Vrishni, various people will be flowing down, right? And then in verse 5, we hear about Dasharatha. So Dasharatha had a son named Shakuni. Shakuni had a son named Karambi. From Karambi came Devaratha. And from Devaratha came Devakshattra. Now, we are at this level of Devakshattra. So this name is very important. Who is Devashattra? Devashattra is the grandfather of Madhu. And Madhu, he is the patriarchal source of, patriarchal means from the father's side, of the Madhu Bhoja branch that will merge with the main line from where Krishna will come. Okay. So again, it is a bit complex. It is not easy to understand. But if you just take a step back and you think about it, as I said, we are preparing for the appearance of Lord Shri Krishna. All these names that we are hearing in this particular genealogical order, they made sacrifices. They did something very, very special to make them the vessels where Lord Shri Krishna will appear. It did not happen out of magic or anything like that. That one fine day Krishna said, I am going to appear, and he came. This is a genealogical, and that is why this is being emphasized over here in this particular chapter. So what do we observe now? So we have a line, right? A grandfather, a father, a son, a grandson. This stretches back centuries, and each name in this particular line that we are seeing is a king. So each king was a ruler, each had his duties. The king must have definitely had their own struggles. They must have had their families, the family problems, just like all of us do. Some of them had sons who were fit, and some did not have good children also, right? So there were some lines that branched out in that particular line lineage. Some lines vanished also. So this is how dharma works in this world. So it's not coming just like a bolt from the heaven, coming from the sky, right? Imagine this like a stream. It is flowing through time. And take a pause and reflect back in terms of, if you go back up the line, we are all coming from one source. That is Achyuta, finally. We are all coming from that one source, but we have forgotten our relationship with that source. So, and the reason we have forgotten that is because we wanted to enjoy ourselves. Whereas our duty, our constitutional position was to serve him. So ask yourselves the question whether you will serve Krishna or do you want to serve yourself? Time is ticking, Prabhujis and Matajis. Today, we are on 10th of May 2026. Before we know, we'll be at that point of time wherein we'll have a few seconds in this particular lifetime, in this particular world, in this particular family, in this particular society, in this particular friend circle. We'll have a few seconds of left only then. Between now and that time, what do you want to do? Do you want to serve the Lord or do you want to serve yourself? Do you want to prepare that vessel, that ship, that house that Krishna can enter? Or do you want to prepare a house, etc., everything which you can enter and which you can enjoy at the end of this life, that is not going to come with you, it will go away. So going back to the first person, anybody remembers the first person from where the dynasty started? Yadu. Yadu, what did he choose? He chose sacrifice. And the kings, most of the kings in his line, they also chose dharma. And that is why when the moment came, that vessel, the womb of Mother Devaki, was ready to bring Lord Krishna into this world. So the second cluster of the branch is the Satvata Deva Vrida Bhoja branch that is there, right? So Vyasadeva then takes us through another stream. So we spoke about one stream first, now this is a second stream. So Devakshatara, whom I spoke of, he had one son named Madhu. And Madhu had a son, Kuruvasha. And from Kuruvasha came Anu, and from Anu came Puruhotra. And from Puruhotra came Ayu. And from Ayu came Satvata. So Satvata is another dynasty, if you remember, Satvata dynasty, right? Satvata had 7 sons, right? And so, including Vrishni, Devavrata, and Andaka. they span their own dynasties come from this particular. So you have Satvata dynasty, from whom you had the Vrishni dynasty, Devavrita dynasty, and Andhaka dynasty. And these will become their own big dynasties. Okay? But Vyasadeva just chooses to focus on two. And he says, this is very important in verse 9. He says, verse 9 to 11, we read about this, the story of Devavrita. Devavrita had a son named Babru. And he says, the demigods declare, among human beings, Babru is the best. Devavrita equals the demigods because of the association of these two great souls. All of their descendants, numbering 14,065, achieved liberation. So here's a test for all the people who are on the call, if they are listening. Why did the 14,065 achieve liberation? Anyone? I will tell you. So I said it. I said because of the association of the two great souls, Devavrita and Babru, 14,065 people achieved liberation. Right? So do you see what Vyasadeva is saying? He's not saying Babru was a great king, great conqueror, or a mighty warrior. He's saying that he was the best because of one thing: his association with a self-realized soul, his own father, Devavrita. And because of that is Satsanga. Because of that Satsanga, pure association, that connection with someone who had surrendered to the Lord, 14,065 descendants of that family achieved liberation. So all of you in Gachibowli Satsang, I know Lilananda Prabhu, sometimes he calls it Pichibowli Satsang and all those things, funny names, but he has still created an environment for all of us to get a shot at going back to Godhead. It is not guaranteed. It's a definite shot that you have. Don't waste it. So again, all the devotees who are attending these programs, initially I used to see a lot of devotees attend the Sunday programs and the classes that are there on Zoom. Now I've seen it gradually come down. It's a very small number. But there is a significant benefit that you will have through these. So, I'll use the analogy of a staircase. If you take one step on a staircase, you are elevated. You will climb higher and higher and higher and higher. In the same way, by associating with the devotee of the Lord, you will also advance in spiritual life. So out of all these things, your association becomes extremely, extremely critical. All of us, in some way, we are connected to Parampara. We have forgotten about it. Our way to remember that is through Satsanga. That is how we will get connected back. Out of our own strength, we will not be able to achieve anything. We'll become jnanis, we'll become extremely knowledgeable, and we'll squander all that knowledge out of our own imagination that we'll be creating. Coming back now to the line again. So, in the dynasty of King Mahabhoja, who was exceedingly religious, there appeared the Bhoja king. So the Bhoja dynasty is described there. So if you look at this, there is one teaching point that is coming out of this whole learning that is coming out of this second cluster there, if you look at it. You have one family, two children, different destinies. Right? So one child, you had Babru, who was in Satsanga, in the association of Devavrita, and that association liberated 14,000 descendants. But the other side didn't experience that. And we also see this in today's modern world. We'll have same family, we'll have two children going in completely two different directions. The other day I was reading that even today, I believe in Bombay, you have Dawood Ibrahim's siblings living in Bombay. Initially, it was a bit of a surprise to me. I was thinking that one person he's been classified as somebody who is persona non grata in India. and the other person, the family members seem to be living peacefully in Mumbai. Right? So again, that is all the free will, the impact of Maya and our own free will. Maya is throwing carrots, hanging carrots somewhere. We end up choosing the wrong carrots, we go in the wrong direction. Then we come to verse 12 to 18, where you have the Vrishni Akrura dynasty and the Andaka lines are described there. So verse 12, we return to the Vrishni dynasty. And there they say that from Vrishni were Sumitra, Yudhajit. And from Yudhajit came Shini and Anabrita. And Shini and Anabrita are brothers. And they branch out. I won't get into those details. From Anamrita's branch, actually, the great warrior Satyaki comes in Mahabharata. Right? And another grandson of the third, there's the different Anamritas that are there. There is Vrishni. And then Vrishni's son is also there. That is Svalpaka. Svalpaka's wife is Gandhini, and their son is Akrura. Now, I'm sure all of you know who Akrura is. So Akrura is one of the greatest devotees in that dynasty. He's a childhood friend, but also of Krishna, but also he's being sent by Kamsa to bring back Krishna and Balarama from Vrindavan to Mathura. So I won't get into the pastimes of Akrura. I leave that as we come to Canto 10. We'll move with the verse flow. Then the Svalpaka is described. He has 13 sons. Besides Akrura, the different sons are there, and he has one sister also. So from Svalpaka, there's actually just an entire dynasty we see is branching out from one single man. So this is the pattern as you are seeing, right? One person is coming, is having two children. One person is forgotten because it peters out, goes in the wrong path. Another person goes in the path of Dharma. From that branch, a big dynasty is appearing. Right? So, and Akrura also being, if you look at all these great personalities who have been born in this particular dynasties, right? These are not dynasties that have not been created by themselves, right? It's the fruit of generations of Dharma. It's not one, two, it's thousands of generations of Dharma have come, right? And when Krishna is coming, Akrura is already there. He's already positioned, already is there as a trusted person over there, right? So this is the importance of lineage. And finally, of course, we'll move now getting closer to the Andaka, Ugrasena, and we'll move to that dynasties now. So we'll now shift to the Andaka line. And in Andaka had 4 sons, Kukura, Bajamana, Shuchi, and Kambala, Barisha. So from Kukura, Vahini, Viloma, Kapotarama, Anu, and finally it comes to Punarvasu. So Punarvasu is the important person, so that's why I directly jumped to that. Right? So I'm now almost in verse 21. That is there. So this is a decisive moment. From Punarvasu had one son called Ahuka and a sister Ahuki. Ahuka had 2 sons, Devaka and Ugrasena. Devaka and Ugrasena, these 2 names are crucial. They are the immediate ancestors of the household that will give birth to Krishna. So Devaka had 4 sons, Devavan, Upadeva, Sudeva, Deva, Vardhana. Deva Vardhana. And 7 daughters, Shantidev, Upadeva, Srideva, Deva Rakshita, Sahadeva, Devaki, and Dritadeva. So then it's not ordinary names. Devaki is Krishna's mother. And she came from this house of Devaka. So and all the 6 sisters actually ended up marrying Vasudeva, who's the father of Krishna. So 7 sisters. So Vasudeva did not marry just 7 women by accident, right? Or this by a whim. He married Devaki, who was destined to be Krishna's mother, but he also married 6 more sisters also. Why? Because in those days, it was the practice for great king to marry sisters from the same family. And that was binding households, alliance, affection, tradition, all those things were there. But there is something important that is said there, that this is the providence, that The very vessel that will hold the Lord Krishna, that is Devaki's womb, came from this house. And all of them entered Vasudev's household. Everyone contributed to that environment, that atmosphere, where Devaki's eighth child, Krishna, would have to be born. So, and then in 24th verse, we are reading about Ugrasen. Ugrasen is Devaka's brother, as I had said. And he had 9 sons. You know one son's name. Everybody knows one son's name. That is Kamsa. Other sons' names were Sunama, Nagrodha, Kanka, Shanku, Suhu, Rashtrapala, Drishti, Tushtiman. So Kamsa is classified as a demon king, right? He's demoniac. Demoniac people don't need to have horns and all that and big teeth necessarily, right? So if you look at it, they are born in the same lineage actually. If you look at Krishna, Kamsa, and if you all start going back up, they will all be coming in one, pretty much they'll all be having some connections. But then we see that his cousin Vasudev, his uncle Devaka, they chose dharma. Kamsa chose adharma. And he becomes a tyrant, he becomes a demoniac ruler. He kills the children of his sister, own sister. So, same family, same blood, different choices. Again, free will at work. This is the importance that we need to keep in mind, that, darkness and light can both come from the same root. Have you all seen in school, you must have worked with something called a prism, right? They would do these experiments of light. You'll have white light enter on one side, and then on the other side, you'll have 7 colors come out, right? Some, of course, are not visible to our eyes only. But again, the root is one. From that one root, different colors are coming. Which color we want to be is our choice. We want to be the dark light with a mentality of a Kamsa, or whether we want to be that white light and have a mentality of Vasudev. Path of dharma versus adharma. That is your choice. And Ugrasen had 5 daughters also, who became the wives of Vasudev's brothers. And now, as we are entering this, now just imagine that it's like a temple. We are entering now into a temple, right? Slowly we are entering. We are now coming closer to the appearance of Lord Krishna. One by one, we are going through the dynasties. This person was born, this person married so-and-so person, this person was born, who later on appears in the Krishna Leelas, like Kamsa comes in and he has a part to play also in the pastimes of Krishna, right? So it's like a temple we are approaching. We are going into that inner Garbhagriha, that inner sanctum sanctorum, where finally we will see Krishna. So, but as we are approaching that, of course, we see that Devaki and Vasudev get connected. So this is also the work of Lord. One is, of course, our effort. We know that Devaki and Vasudev, they did penance for thousands of years to have the Lord being born as their child. But that is not possible without the Lord's mercy. So if you remember the Leela, which is there's another person. Yeah. If you remember the Damodar Leela, in the Damodar Leela, we see that Mother Yashoda is trying to bind little Krishna, but it's always 2 fingers short, right? So is Mother Yashoda putting in the effort? Yes. Why is that not happening? Because the Lord has not yet granted the mercy there. So similarly also, they all put in effort, right? But without the hand of Lord, this would have not been happened. So Devaki was born into a particular family. Vasudev married them. Kamsa is also born into the same families, but he will reject dharma. Right? So the question, I'm repeating this again, is for us, which choice will we make? Not as us as in this material body, but start thinking of yourself as the Jivatma. What choice do you want to make? Right? One person chose dharma, that is Devaka, and Devaki embodied it. She was even imprisoned by Krishna Kamsa, but she was protected by Krishna. And Kamsa on the other side chose something very different. So when we look at our own families, let's remember that this is the real struggle, which path we are going to choose. It's not about our conquest, not about our wealth, but whether each one of us will choose the path of Dharma, will choose the Lord, or whether we will choose Maya. That's up to us. And the ones that choose that path of Dharma, the path of the Lord, and who are there, of course, on today's call, and hearing Bhagavad Gita and Krishna Katha, we become the vessel for His grace. So we are getting the Lord's grace. And the ones who are choosing Maya, and I'm not getting escaped by Maya, where many times in the day I will take my phone, I will be scrolling, I'll be seeing Instagram videos, and I've seen one thing happen. Once I start scrolling one video, 2 videos, 3 videos, 4 videos, 5 videos, 6 videos, and before I know, 99 videos are done. Like that. That is the power of Maya. And that becomes the agent of our own downfall without us realizing it. Right? And if you are fortunate enough like Kamsa, we might become an instrument of Bhagwan's divine plan also. But I'm not saying become Kamsa. Please don't do that. Right? So now we are reaching the climax for Vasudev's arrival, which is beautifully described. I'll come to that. So Chitraratha had a son, Viduratha, and Viduratha had a son, Shura. And from Shura came Bhajamana, and from Bhajamana came Shini, and from Shini came Bhoja, from Bhoja came Hridika. Hridika had 3 sons, Devamida, Shatadhanu, Kritavarma, and Devamida had a son, Shura. And there are 2 Shuras. It can be a little bit confusing. So in the text, it's referring to Devamida's son. Shura's wife was Marisha. And you can clearly see how Vyasadeva is narrowing now the focus, layer by layer, branch by branch, is zooming in from the sky now to the earth, from the cosmos to one household, from Yadu, that sacrifice that he did in terms of giving up his youth, down through all the hundreds of kings, down to one man and his wife. Right? So that focus comes to Vasudeva, and it's beautifully described in the Bhagavatam. It says, when Vasudeva was born, the demigods from the heavenly kingdom sounded kettle drums. Therefore, Vasudeva, who provided the proper place for the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was also known as Anaka Dundubi. Now, Anaka Dundubi means, that is, the one at whose birth Anakas and Dundubis are played. Anakas are kettle drums and Dundubis are loud drums. These were sounding from the heaven. So now do you understand, Prabhuji and Mataji, what is happening? That Vasudeva is born, right? The demigods are celebrating that. Because they know that now it is certain that Krishna will appear. So they sounded the instruments to celebrate Vasudeva's appearance. Not that Vasudeva will be a great Kshatriya, not to celebrate that he will grow his kingdom in any particular way, because they knew of Vasudeva's future, that the Lord was going to take birth over here. Right? Uh, and then also it's described around the 5 daughters of King Shura. So named Pritha, Shrutadeva, Shrutakirti, Shrutashrava, and Raja Didevi. They were Vasudev's sisters. So Shura gave Pritha to his friend Kunti Bhoj. You know who is Pritha? She is none other than Mother Kunti. So, who is the mother of Arjuna? She is the mother of the Pandavas. In the Mahabharata, if you look at them, they are one of the greatest devotees. She is also Vasudev's sister. So, to sum it up, 31 verses, that is all that it takes for Vyasadeva to transport us from the beginning of the Yadu dynasty to the household of Vasudeva. 31 verses of names, of kings, of marriages, of births. That is all that is there in these 31 verses. But when we are reading these 31 verses, we need to reflect ourselves. There's a huge opportunity for all of us to reflect also in terms of where we are, why we are here, and who we are. Right? I think Lilananda Prabhu only had mentioned it once in one of his teachings. He had said, nothing in this world is accidental. Right? Please keep that in mind. Your appearance in this world or your participation in this particular class of Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, 24th chapter, verse 1 to 31 is not accidental. It is destined. Similarly, over here, when the Lord decides to appear, he will appear in a vessel that has been prepared across generations according to his will, ensuring 100% perfection. He just does not fall from the sky into a random womb. And if we want Krishna to enter our hearts, we have an opportunity to cultivate the right habits, to cultivate the right dharma, cultivate the right association. And once our heart is purified sufficiently, Krishna will enter our hearts. It is like, if you are inviting a guest, don't you keep your house clean? Imagine that today, let's say that, a guest is coming home. You will definitely keep your house clean. If you know that there is a VIP who is coming, you'll take even more effort to keep it clean. What about the house of your heart? How clean is that? If we do not keep that house clean, will Krishna ever want to stay in that house? Yet he is so merciful, he is still residing as Paramatma over there and trying to guide us. He's guiding us. But we need to make that effort to clean that house, and that will only happen through following in the footsteps of somebody like Ambarish Maharaj. We need to follow in the footsteps of great Vaishnavas. We saw that, and through this process, we'll have to make sacrifice. We'll have to do service. Sacrifice will have to be made. Service will have to be done. And then only we'll be fit to receive him, his mercy. At the beginning, we saw in the chapter, in this canto, we have seen Yadu sacrificed his life for his father. That choice, that one choice, it echoed across thousands of years, and then Krishna was born. That one choice of sacrifice. So please keep that in mind, Prabhujis and Matajis. Now, before we conclude, why does this matter? Before we enter in Krishna Lila, of course, right? And we're not yet entering. Next week on Saturday, we'll have to conclude this chapter and then move to Krishna Lila. but I'm getting quite excited that entering Krishna Lila. I'm separately also in Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's class. We are already there in Canto 10. So it becomes so sweet. In this canto, only in Canto 9.24, chapter 24, verse number 56, if I'm right. Let me just go to that verse. I will read that verse. It says, Yada yada hi dharmasya shayo vriddhischa papmanaha tadato bhagavanisha atmanam srijate harihi. The translation, whenever the principles of religion deteriorate and the principles of irreligion increase, the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead Shri Hari appears by his own will. So does this remind all of you of another verse that you must have heard, very, very popular verse from the Bhagavad Gita? So this verse is Bhagavatam's own version of the Gita's Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, 4.7. So the point is, the Lord does not appear by accident or compulsion. He appears by his own choice, in his own time, for his own purpose, which is always for the welfare of living beings, for the devotees, for people who are for protecting the dharma. And moving to the end of the chapter, I think it's verse 61 and 62. I won't read the verse. I'll just quickly go through the translations because I think it's important. It says, to show causeless mercy to the devotees who would take birth in the future in this age of Kali, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna acted in such a way that simply by remembering him, one will be freed from all the lamentation and unhappiness of material existence. In other words, he acted so that future devotees, by accepting the instructions of Krishna consciousness stated in the Bhagavad Gita, could be relieved from the pangs of material existence. Simply by receiving the glories of the Lord through purified transcendental years, the devotee of the Lord are immediately freed from strong material desires and engagement in the fruitive activities. So recently, all of us in our material lives, we are going through some kind of turbulations also, right? And I happened to be reading actually the Bhagavad Gita. And in the Mahabharata, the first chapter of the Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Does anybody know what is the meaning of Vishada? Anyone? Hare Krishna? It is lamentation, remorse, right? When Arjuna had that lamentation and that remorse, then only he was fit to receive the Gita there. And we are all in a situation where we are lamenting about something. We are all in a situation where we are regretting something. I have not met anyone so far who is not either lamenting and does not have regrets. Maybe devotees are there, senior Vaishnavas are there. We are all perfect recipients for the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So, if you hear about Krishna, if you chant his names, if you study his pastimes, the very act of hearing itself, chanting and remembering him will purify you. So when we think that there's so much anxiety in this Kali Yuga, so much suffering, is it possible to reach Bhagavan? Yes, the prescription is given already. Kabirya is there. Hear, chant his names. That is all that is needed. The Lord is not different from his names. It's very easy to engage in bhakti. And of course, through this journey, we need the guidance of a guru, of senior people who are already in this path who can guide us. That is what we saw in the case of Babru and Devavrita, where satsanga becomes super critical. That's how those 14,065 descendants got liberated. So I will leave the appearance of Krishna to the next class. 24th chapter, as I said, it's a bridge. The Yadu dynasty, they prepared the vessel, and Mother Devaki was the who had womb. The mother, Vasudeva, was the father. But all the generations that preceded that, all the sacrifices that they did, the dharma that they embraced, the satsanga that they had, they created the conditions. But of course, when the Lord appears, that moment transcends everything else. And he did things very, very different. He did not fulfill his expectations of being a king's son. He immediately chose to go away and become a cowherd boy, a flute player, a lover of the gopis. Because the Lord does not appear to validate the world as it is. He comes to transform it. And Krishna came and did that. So as we are going to now end the 9th canto, approach the 10th canto, again, extremely exciting entering 10th canto. Keep this in mind. You have heard all these stories of Maya, how Shaubari Muni fell, how Yayati squandered 1000 years, how Surya lost his form. But you have also heard the stories in the 9th canto that bhakti wins. Ambarish Maharaj was protected by the Sudarshan Chakra. Katwanga was able to attain the Lord in just one Murta, 48 minutes. So many other stories are there. And that you have taken this journey of going through these 9 cantos, you are ready to hear Krishna's pastimes. That is there for sure. But you need to consciously ask yourself also, through this particular chapter, which path we want to choose. Maya is everywhere. As we saw, it has trapped sages, kings, everybody have been trapped by Maya. And the only shelter against that Maya is shelter of the Lord. So use all your senses, all your mind, all your heart in the service of the Lord. Let us all try to lead a Krishna conscious centered life, keeping Krishna at the center. So this is a sacrifice. I would say this is a choice that all of us have to make as we are going to be entering into that Krishna Lila phase of the Bhagavatam into the 10th canto. So before I close, just the final thing that I want to say is that one teaching in the Canto 9 that's so important. And Srila Prabhupada considered this is the entire summary of the entire canto actually. It comes from the story of Maharaj Ambarish. So he was a devotee whose faith could not be shaken even by the wrath of a great yogi like Durvasa. You all know the story. I won't get into the story. But he understood one principle, which was everything he had, his mind, his words, his hands, his eyes, his ears, his senses, could be engaged in the service of Krishna. He was not the proprietor of anything. Today, all of us think that we own something. We are not the proprietor. We are the wrong proprietor. There is only one proprietor, and that is Krishna. And Krishna, and when you look at Ambarish Maharaj, his mind was always fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord, meditating on the Lord. His words were engaged in describing him. His hands were engaged in cleaning the temple and serving the Lord.
That is one sloka, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
That is from 9, 18 to 23 slokas combined
Yes.
in one sloka.
Yeah.
That
Hare
is-
Prabhu. Yes, yes, Prabhu. You're
Shall,
absolutely
shall I
right.
recite, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes, please, please, please. Hare Krishna, Hari Bol. Please
Hare
recite.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Savai mana Krishna padaravindayorvacham Vaikunthagunanuvardhane Karor Harer Mandiramarjanadishum Shrutim Chakara Achyuta Satkatodaye Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drushau Tadbrutya Gatra Sparshenga Sangamam Granam Cha Tatpada Saroja Saurabhe Shrutim श्रीमत्तुलस्या रसनां सदर्पिते पादौ हरेर्क्षेत्रपदानुसर्पणे शिरो हृषीकेशपदाभिवन्दने कामं च दास्येन तु कामकाम्यया यतोत्तमश्लोक जनाश्रया रतिः हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी.
Hari Hari. Prabhu, can you read the translation also, Prabhu?
No, I have only sloka Prabhu ji. I have taken the screenshot. Lalit Mohan Prabhu was
Anybody else wants to read the translation?
I will read Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Jai, Jai, Jai. Krishna Prabhu, please read.
Wonderful, huh? Thank you for this class. Actually, it's a dry subject matter, but you put into nice direct explanation of these various characters from this chapter. Haribol. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you,
So
Prabhu.
let me read the translation of these three slokas.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes, Prabhu.
Very prominent devotional character, pure devotee of Krishna. Ambarish Maharaj ki jai. Maharaja Ambarisha always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. His words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna are about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavana. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulasi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasada. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaja Ambarisha never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service. In various engagements related to the Lord, this is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Giriraj Prabhu. This is not a formula, Prabhujis and Mataji's. This is actually the formula. It's just not one formula. This is the formula. And it is not just hearsay, right? This is proven. So please keep in mind that it's not renunciation of your senses. It is engagement of your senses. Two very, very distinct things. Renouncing versus engaging. And that's what Prabhupada always said, that bhakti is not just devotion, it is devotional service. You have to engage your service in the senses in the service of Krishna. And for this, we don't need to renounce the world. The reason why we don't have a lot of people coming into these classes, they are thinking in their mind that by coming here, I'm going to become a sannyasi. And I'm sure all the people here in this group here that are listening to this lecture are not people who are hiding in a cave meditating. Right? We engage in worldly matters also. But whatever we do, everything that we do, we need to do it with Krishna consciousness. And maybe this is where at least I have an opportunity to improve. Each one of us has an opportunity to improve maybe also. And how do we ensure that everything we do, everything we have is in Krishna consciousness? And this is a very simple practice. And by this bhakti, we will be completely protected from Maya. Right? And this is what happened when also Durvasa cursed Ambarisha. Right? It's not that Sudarshan Chakra came to protect Ambarisha because Ambarisha was powerful. But because Ambarisha's entire being, his entire purpose of existence was already offered to Krishna, as what has been told by Giriraj Prabhu when he read that beautiful verses. So this is the answer to the question, how do I protect myself from Maya while living in this world? You have got the formula. Offer everything to Krishna, not by rejecting life. Very important. But by sanctifying it. Purify your lives. And by making every action, every word we speak, every thought, that has to be an offering to the Lord's lotus feet. So when Vasudeva appeared, we saw the demigods sounded their kettle drums and loud drums, right? Vasudeva did not do anything special on that day. He was just born. So the celebration was not for personal achievement. It was for what Vasudeva would become. It was a way in which the whole entire universe was around saying, here is the vessel through which the Lord's grace will flow. That is why that happened. So in the same way, each one of you, as a devotee of Krishna, here is being announced actually. Similarly, if we had kettle drums and drums here, I would play that to announce the arrival of all the devotees on this call. So not because all of us are perfect, not because we have achieved anything yet, but because we have made this choice today to offer our time to Krishna and Bhagavata Katha. And those kettle drums and loud drums will be even louder the day we make that choice to offer our life to Krishna. Prabhupada said, so many lives we have wasted. Just one life, give to Krishna. And you see the magic happen then. And in this Kali Yuga where Maya is so strong, where distractions are there everywhere, I'm sure after this call, I will also get into the jungle of Maya, as they say. When you sit down to chant, when you offer an arti, when you serve in the temple, when you speak the names of the Lord, please keep in mind at that point of time, the devatas, the demigods, they are sounding their kettle drums. Anaka Dundubi, they are doing that then also. I'm sure today at this particular point of time where Bhagavad Gita is being spoken, not only here, anywhere the devatas are doing that, because that is what pleases the Lord. Lord is not looking for perfection, he is looking for sincerity. He needs people who are willing, people who are devoted. And that is the message you get from the Yadu dynasty. So let us all go to the Yadu dynasty. Because of that, we very fortunate that 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna appeared. And so many great personalities, of course. Please reflect on this. Please reflect on your genealogies, on your lineages also. All of us are coming from something very, very transcendental. And finally, of course, from the source of all sources. Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartati. Think about that. But more importantly, think, who am I serving? Am I serving myself or am I serving Krishna? Let that answer be Krishna, always Krishna. Thank you very much. Please forgive me if I have spoken anything which is not correct or have offended anybody. I would like to thank His Grace Lilananda Prabhu once again and all the senior Vaishnavas, all the devotees on this call for giving me this opportunity to be, at least try to be Krishna consciousness for the last 30 minutes. I'm very, very grateful to your association. My humble obeisances to all of you. And sincerely grateful to Gurudev Srila Prabhupada also and all Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Prabhuji, your class is excellent.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Sorry, I came a little late. I was a little unwell. So, Prabhuji, I was touched by your point when you said that we come into a lineage with great responsibility. that was amazing point that you made. The lineage of Yayati, how he diverted, told his son Puru, and again he came back, and took the old age, and so much he has given to his lineage. And I was thinking that when we go and introduce people to Krishna consciousness, how much great service we are doing to their lineage, right? Everybody is coming in some lineage, but they've forgotten it, and they're in different world, completely materialistic, not aware of who is Krishna, why they've taken birth. And we go and introduce them to Krishna consciousness on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. We give his books, we explain them, we take some classes. And then I was thinking, actually, we are not only touching the lineage from where they came, but we are creating a lineage unlimited under after that, right? And if one person comes to Krishna consciousness, it is just not him and his wife. It's going to be his children, his grandchildren, his great grandchildren, and great great grandchildren, and it'll just keep going on, for ages and ages. If one sincere devotee comes, if you just imagine, that little service that Krishna is asking us to do, it is such a huge impact on the whole world. So many.
Imagine, Prabhu, one day, maybe finally one more vessel will be created where the Lord himself will come.
Exactly. So it's so amazing, when we even think the impact of one person coming to Krishna consciousness, right? And Krishna is absolutely using all of us. There's no doubt about it. The mere fact that we are still breathing and sitting in this class says that he wants us to get purified and serve him. As you ended nicely saying, he's not looking for perfection; he's looking for sincerity. I think that's really amazing motivation to continue. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your amazing enthusiastic class. I'm so happy that in Singapore we have somebody like you, who is going to give Krishna to so many. I have one request. Can I make? I have one request.
Yes, Prabhu.
Can you show us the darshan of Sri Radha Van Bihari?
Oh, yes. I can do
Have
that.
you already?
Just give me
Yeah,
1
you
minute.
just take the
I'll just
laptop.
I'll just give it 1 minute. 1 minute. I'll have
Yeah.
to go on the phone and get it. Do it, Prabhu. 1 minute. Just hold on.
Yeah. So Prabhuji and Mataji, some of us in the call. So if you don't know that Prabhuji and Mataji got an opportunity to welcome Shri Radha Krishna in their house, and they were personally named by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. A very beautiful Leela of Maharaj naming them also. Someday you will tell. And they're so beautiful. They're exactly like the deities in Govardhan Eco Village. And Maharaj looked at them and said, they are manifesting again. And now they're going to Singapore. There's Gaurang Darshan Prabhu and many other devotees, help them get that mercy. So I thought we will get an opportunity to see them. I'm very excited to see them. They had a welcoming, I think, last month.
What are the deity names, Prabhu?
Radha Van Bihari.
Hari.
Vrindavan Bihari, right? Vrindavan Bihari or Van Bihari?
Radha
Prabhuji,
Vrindavan Bihari, Prabhu.
Vrindavan Bihari, yeah, exactly what they have in
Radha Vrindavan
TV,
Bihari.
right?
Let me see. How do I? Okay, so this is by our makeshift altar, Prabhu.
Hari Bol.
We've got Guru Parampara, Shada Goswami. Then we've got Dasamade Prahlad Maharaj here this side. We've got Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Ma. We've got Laddu Gopal, our first small deity that my mother gave. So Laddu Gopal ji is here. There you see the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here first. And then we have Radha Rani.
Jai, beautiful.
And then lotus feet of Radha Vrindavan Bihari.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. You can see now. Jai.
So altar is not yet there, Prabhu. Altar will be coming once it's done. We'll again show, Prabhu.
Yes.
Makeshift altar that we have created, but
They
So
create
beautiful.
consciousness. I will encourage everyone to invite lordships to their house. Very, very important.
Do you like to sponsor Singapore tickets, Prabhu? We will come.
Yes, Prabhu?
Do you like to sponsor Singapore tickets, Prabhu? I'm interested to come, Prabhu, and do some seva.
Please come, Prabhu.
He is sponsoring Goloka tickets, bro.
Jai, Jai. Beautiful read. Thank you, sir.
Jai, jai, jai. Amazing. The same exact altar that is there in Govardhaniko village.
Yes, Prabhu.
Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. Wow. So beautiful. Prabhu, thank you. Thank you for taking my request.
Yes, Prabhu. Anytime, Prabhu.
Haribol, Haribol. Shri Radha Van Vihari, Radha Vrindavan Vihari ki jai. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Anand Shyam Prabhu ki jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Premanande Hari. Champaklata Devi Mataji ki jai. Champaklata Priti Mataji ki jai. Haribol. Priti ki jai. Haribol.
Jai, Jai.
Thank you, Broji. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhujis and Matajis. We'll
Haribol.
stop the class now then, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Dandavat,
Okay,
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Ram,
Krishna, Hare
Ram.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Much for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripasindhubhasya paतितानां pavaneshwarapati
Jai, Jai. Thank you very much. Oh.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
all.
Guruji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat.